check on my phone.
Okay.
I'll check on my phone, we should be on.
Yeah, you can check on your phone, I'll check on your computer.
It says notification on that yet. It said it will start soon.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
I'm doing well.
Just started pouring.
Did it really?
Yeah, out of nowhere.
I'm glad that I closed my window.
Yeah,
We're live, but Bob.
unexpected.
Yeah, all right, we're up. All right, Andrew, did you get your packet?
Did I
Oh,
what?
the hard copy, yeah.
I got 'em, yeah.
This is a letter of information set forth by the applicants. So there's, this is set forth by the applicants, this is a letter of support from a trustee.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Alex.
Hello.
Everything good?
Everything's good. Todd can't make it tonight, I don't see one.
Right.
We're watching the clock, 1 minute. That one up there was not always, I guess it's a couple minutes off, so. That's village time there. Alex, you got a water?
I'm good, yeah, I got my own.
Anybody want a water? Oh, Diane, you're here tonight too. How you doing, Diane? Is that someone's?
No, I think that's, the HVAC.
You get too close. I'll put mine in. This was.
Oh.
Far away. Okay. Board, are you ready? I'd like to call to order the Village of Walton Hills Planning Commission meeting of August 6, 2026 at 7 p.m. Next order of business is the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call. Alexander Long,
Here.
Janice St. John,
Here.
Councilman Raymond Whedon,
Present.
Mayor Don Colograph. At this time, I'd ask for a motion.
Mayor Colograph, members of the commission, I'd like to offer a motion for excused absence for member Todd Toaz, who had a previous commitment prior to this meeting being scheduled.
Is there a second?
Second?
Vote on the motion. Alexander Long,
Yes.
Janice St. John,
Yes.
Councilman Whedon,
Yes.
Mayor Colograph, yes. Okay, 4. Okay, item 4, approval of minutes from January 15th of 2026.
Mayor,
Yes,
I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes from the Planning Commission meeting of January 15th, 2026.
is there a second?
Second.
Vote on the motion. Alexandra Long,
Yes.
Janice St. John,
Yes.
Councilman Lee,
Yes.
Mayor Colgraf, yes. Minutes approved. Is there any old business? I don't have any as chairman at this time. Does any members?
No.
Okay. At this time, I'd also like to introduce who else is here. We also have our planning consultant, George Smarigan, our street commissioner and zoning inspector, Rob Kelman, and our village engineer, Joe Gelati. We also do have Diane Canzoni, one of our council members that sits on council with us in the audience. Okay. I'd like to welcome anybody watching the live stream tonight too, whether they're residents or not residents. Okay, we have new business. We have item A, which is 026-01-7140 Northfield Road, proposed industrial development. Who would like to, who's representing for Turner Transport? If you could give us your name, your title, and the address of the property, and tell us why you're here.
Good afternoon. My name is Matt Fortuna. The address of the property is 7140 Northfield Road. And we are proposing an industrial center on this property. The property would not be warehouse type of a project, it's more of, it's not a warehouse and distribution buildings. It's buildings that are made for small to medium-sized contractors, such as electrical contractors, HVAC contractors, trucking companies, landscape companies, things of that nature. I think the idea tonight, the submission was to put a very preliminary conceptual print in front of the commission to get feedback and thoughts and direction of a few key items of how to move the project forward.
Okay. Would you like to present those at this time?
Sure. The first thing is the Crick Road building setback. I realize the setback on Crick Road is 100 feet. Our project calls for a 50-foot setback for them buildings. We understand there will be a variance required. The setback is not just to increase the size of the building, but it is needed for truck maneuverability on the lot. I'd also like to add that the neighbors to the north and the south are currently sitting at a 40-foot setback, so we wouldn't be asking for anything more. In fact, our setback would be larger than our neighbors. So we kind of like to know how we need to go about submitting that and when the next meeting is to get that in front of you guys.
Okay, go ahead.
So we would do is, and Matt will walk you through that, we would put that in front of the board as zoning appeals to grant that variance. And I will hold the members to see how soon they set a meeting.
Okay.
So I can get in touch with you about that, so.
And will the plan submitted work for submission?
These plans for the intention of setback, yes.
Correct.
That
Okay.
will work, yes.
Okay. The next one on the list would be the building materials. The proposed building is intended to be split face masonry wainscot with an architectural metal panel building. Covered entrances, modern industrial appearance. That would be another thing that would need commission approval, I understand by your notes.
Yes, exterior finishes are approved by the planning commission.
So let's discuss that a little bit. Right now, what's being proposed is not in 2070-07, is that correct?
I'm sorry, I'm gonna follow that.
Does the proposed building elevation, what they have shown here, does it meet our present code? I guess that's the question.
Oh, so our code reads, in all industrial districts, all exterior wall areas of each elevation of any building or other structure erected or the expansion of existing buildings and other structures shall be constructed of brick, split face block, or similar material or other type as may approved by planning commission. So what the code is doing is bringing anything before planning, as far as any exterior finish that isn't, all brick and masonry comes before planning for their approval. So it's, I guess, George, it's technically not a variance, it's just, it's for planning's approval.
Simply commission's interpretation and approval.
Okay.
And we've been through this before, where you talked with applicants about the nature of their design and their materials and their colors, and they've asked people to make adjustments, et cetera, as we've gone forward. That's the authority you have. Any material that's not specifically as listed in the code is at your discretion.
Okay. What, if you want to continue?
Okay. There was mention in the comments about the Northfield Road access. The current layout obviously is conceptual. Our primary concern is maintaining, safe traffic turning and movements when entering off of Northfield Road. And my question would be is, what does the village envision with that entrance? Are you looking for a landscape median to divide the two driveways? Some other type of configuration? If we know what you're looking for, we can see if we can plan around that and make it work, the radiuses work out for traffic.
Yeah, so you may be referring to my memo that was in the
Correct.
packet. So I guess, the request would be to follow the code. The driveway can be 36 foot wide, and you can have 30-foot radius turnout on each side of the driveway. So I think that's initially what we'd be looking for as a planning commission on a resubmittal.
Okay.
Sorry, hi, Chrissy Comer. I'm one of the civil engineers on the project. I think based on the site plan, the building is for multiple tenants, and so the idea would be to have access to there's garage doors proposed on both sides. So the idea would be able to have either box trucks or any type of truck to be able to make those turns into both of those garage accesses. So that's the reason for the wider drive apron.
I'm sorry, could you repeat that last bit that you said?
Yeah, the reason for the width of the drive apron, why it's so wide above, I think, the 36 or the
Okay.
36 foot, yes.
Thank you.
Of course.
Can the use of this property be further explained? I understand that it's going to have utility vehicles, large vehicles, but what is their purpose? Is it storage? Is it for, I don't know, repairs, maintenance?
I'm building the buildings to lease out.
Okay.
So it could be numerous end users. Like I was saying before, it could be a trucking company, it could be an HVAC contractor, electrical contractor. I think there's a very large call for small to medium-sized contractors. They need a shop to work out of, a small office, and then a yard parking to store their materials and things of that nature.
As it's shown, it looks like there's about 4 separate tenant areas that can be gated off.
Correct. There's 2 buildings. Those buildings will be split into 4 separate tenants. And I'd like to add that on our prints, the parking that is shown is just for our use. It shows us, it kind of gives us an idea of how many spaces are available, but that does not mean that we're looking to rent this just to truck parking. This could be for any contractor, any industrial type of a business to use as yard storage space.
Rob, just kind of for clarification for the board, can you explain where this falls in our zoning as far as, you know, the 1 or 2, or kind of just so the board understands whether or not this fits
So this
the use?
This is the I-2 district where, you know, it's like the I-1 is limited industrial. This is not general industry. General industry. Yeah, general industrial use. Overall, the use as proposed is appropriate for the zoning district.
That was going to be my question.
I'll get to the point for you. So-
There you go.
I have a question though, since I'm talking, and I guess I didn't even catch this on the.
Just talk real loud, you guys, just so I pick it up. Otherwise, I'll have to have you go to the mic.
Off a Crick Road with the 50-foot setback, if we have the large overhead doors, not knowing what the tenant's gonna be, how would you take a delivery of a 53-footer backing up? There isn't a little bit of jockeying around with the 50-foot setback?
We did run some, you want to answer that?
Yeah, no, we did run some truck turns into there, and the idea is to be able to pull through the building. So there are doors on the back of the building as well, so it's a drive-through, more or less.
Okay.
Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, I maybe should have said that. The buildings are laid out with overhead doors. They will be 80 feet deep with overhead doors on both sides, so you drive through the building. It's ideal for maintenance and mechanics like to have stuff like that.
Yeah, go ahead, I was going to ask you if you wanted to add anything else.
No, not on that subject. Can we move, you want to
Oh,
move to
yeah,
the next
yeah.
one? Okay. Pavement, we do understand the ordinance of the hard surface pavement, and we will be correcting the drawing. I think that kind of slipped through the cracks before we submitted it. Same thing, landscaping was mentioned. There definitely will be a landscaping drawing. There's no problems with that. Lighting was another concern. No problems with lighting. We'll submit that with the architectural plans. Parking, there was a note about parking. I guess the buildings are relatively small office area buildings, and the design would be that you have a few parking spots in front of the building, but if the whole back of the building is paved, you have very large parking lots there, so.
There's no problem.
Okay.
Even with,
Yes, we do intend to pave.
There should be no issue with parking.
Okay. One of the other things was a fence. We definitely are going to put a fence. We're thinking maybe an 8-foot tall chain link fence around every property. The complete site, and then each building will be actually sectioned off as well. If there's any other additional requirements by the city, or is there anything else in your codes other than the 8-foot chain link fence, or anything else we need to know?
I'd have to verify 8-foot being appropriate for this area, but if we can piggyback that on your setback.
Yeah, 8 foot, 6 foot, whatever size, we
Yeah.
just, as long as we know what size the city requires.
But you definitely, if you're gonna have storage there, like, contractors with storing their materials and equipment, you're definitely gonna want a fence.
Oh, for sure. Right, the tenants are gonna require a fence, so,
Exactly.
yes. There was a note about the sidewalk. ODOT is replacing the sidewalk.
Yes.
If there's anything, do we need to do anything for that
We're
besides?
actually, we're gonna be on a pre-concrete well in about a week and a half. And we'll have one.
Okay, okay,
So, I mean, that kind of goes with the design of the approaches in relation to our codified ordinance and in relation to working with DOT's project. So we can put all that together.
okay. I think that's pretty much it. We've touched on all the comments.
There was one on stormwater drainage, catch basin or
Oh.
something.
Yeah, somehow I missed that, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
The stormwater, we do know we have to provide stormwater. We are going to design underground retention for the property. I think the intent was to submit something, get something in front of the city, have some feedback, and then tell us how to proceed forward, because the few things that we're looking at is the 50-foot, having that variance, and then also the type of building that we build. We need to get answers on that, and then we'll proceed forward with a full architectural and engineering drawings for resubmission.
Okay.
Okay.
So at this time, you're asking us to table it?
Yes.
That's what you want to do, because you're not, you don't, if we voted what you submitted, and we voted on it, then you'd have, if it didn't get approved, you'd have to wait.
Mhm.
You can't really act on it because he needs the variance.
He needs a variance first to.
One of the board of zoning appeals to get the
Correct.
variance.
Mhm.
In the meantime, we need to be considering the building materials and whether or not the building facade treatment is acceptable to the commission. And he's solving the parking problems, so that's going away. I think what you're really down to is the BZA variance and the curb cuts.
Mhm.
And I think the facade materials, I think those are the only three things that don't really comply, assuming that he makes the change relative to the paving.
Well, for
And
sure.
we agree on a fence type.
Would the curb cuts be a variance also, would that be an approval by us? Like if we did it, not according to the code, where it says? Is that prior variance?
Yeah, typically what we've done when something has required a variance is that you've tabled it, send it to the board, let the board act. Because it doesn't make sense, if the board doesn't grant them the variance, for them to do detailed design drawings for your approval,
Mhm.
when they can't put the building there, makes no sense. They need to get the variance issue addressed first, and then they can do heavier design work. But for them to come back with plans, like, say, for instance, change those driveway widths, and then the board still says no, they've done all that work for nothing.
Okay, I got you.
So, but that's been our standard procedure. Things come in front of you, get presented, so that you see the concept in the big picture, and then whatever variance requirements are, get sorted out, sent to the BZA. They act on those, and then the whole thing comes back to you for final approval. So by the time this, the only thing that you might be able to do this evening, other
sure
Thank you.
they'd prefer that information now if they're going to work on it further, right?
I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, I'm sure you'd prefer that information now if you're gonna work on it further anyway.
If, yes,
Um,
if you need time to,
or do you just wanna table it?
No, if there's something that you have an opinion on and want to share with them, that's up to you or any of us.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, James.
What road is all this facing?
the buildings would face Northfield Road and Crick Road. So if you look at the site plan, the buildings face Northfield and Crick,
Okay,
with the primary parking in the back.
just as a preliminary opinion, I would love to have the building materials as close to the code as possible.
Okay.
Just saying that right, right off the bat. But it looks nice. It's a lot of effort went into it. I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Certainly will be an improvement to what was there.
Yes, yes.
What we're striving to do
Mhm.
is improve our industrial district.
These style units are very popular with small contractors, plumbers, electricians, those kind of folks. It works well for them.
Good.
And so these are fairly popular. I think there should be a pretty decent demand for these.
And I do appreciate your mentioning the landscaping.
Yeah.
And that you are open to that. That's
Yes.
very much appreciated as well.
Yes, definitely.
I do want to share, just with the general public and anybody watching, in our packet, which you did receive, we do have a memo from our village engineer, Joe Gelati, also a memo from Rob Kalman, our street commissioner, zoning inspector. I'm not gonna read the whole thing in the record, but I will, you touched base on most of them. Just to kind of, in conclusion, Mr. Gelati said, given the number of items on the submitted plan that are not in conformance with the village code, which you just addressed, we recommend continuing this application to a future meeting. And then Mr. Kalman did address all the items in the memo to us that we talked about tonight too, that would need to be upgraded on the plan. Anybody else have anything to add, or? Joe, would you like to add anything at this time?
Yeah, I mean, I can just touch on the memo I provided for everybody. I think we sort of already addressed everything in there anyways, but it doesn't hurt to go over for the record. You indicated you'll show underground detention on the next submittal.
Yes.
That's great, we're all for that. I would suggest you nail down the location and the size and the condition of that storm sewer that runs diagonally through your property, because you're gonna wanna know that, or you're gonna need to know that, so you can tie in your underground detention, and you probably want to assess the condition before you pave parking all over it, as well, so I'd suggest that. You indicated that it would not be an aggregate surface, it will be paved, that's great, that'll agree with the code, we appreciate that. It also needs to have a perimeter curve, as well to go with that, so please, do that for us. Sidewalk install that ODOT's planning for later this fall, that's really on there, I just want you to be aware of it, so you don't get a surprise later. We can coordinate on that more, later, like Rob said, and I guess my last comment was regarding the, access points, both on the creek, and on Northfield. I provided the code information on there that you would need to comply with, and I guess if you cannot or do not want to comply with that, I suppose that has to go to BZA as well.
Rob, let's go right around the table. Rob, did you want to add anything, so we give some good direction? Go ahead.
Can I go step back for a minute on the access drives? If we split them with a landscape, say like a 2-foot landscape median down the center. I mean, I know we're showing one long building, but they're actually two separate tenants, and they're two separate driveways. We just pushed them together to create a turning, and I don't know if that will even work if we put a median down the center, but would that satisfy you to have two separate driveways? Would, say, a 2-foot median down the center, if we could make it work?
I mean, the point of the limit is more of a safety consideration. It's, part of the reason that we are getting a sidewalk on that road is because there are already a lot of accidents. So if you have lots of trucks pulling in at the same time and this large expanse, that makes it difficult when someone's crossing that to cross safely. So ideally, it's a smaller entrance and then it can open up further so that it's not so many pulling in on different angles and different spaces, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it's access control,
Yeah.
safety and reduces driver confusion.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess my first thought, if you had a 2-foot island in between, how would you maintain that? Like, you're not
Especially
able to maintain grass, on a
large
2-foot strip with
trucks.
large trucks driving right next to it.
Yeah.
So if you had,
Constantly, so that'd be my question. That's where I would see the problem, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And I don't wanna design it on the floor, I have
Right.
a question, so I guess I'd probably ask you folks to think about it a little bit. And
I do understand the convenience of having the pull-through access. I mean, a lot of, for example, fire stations have that, but that's an emergency situation, not commercial.
And I want to make one more point too on, adjacent to each of the buildings and each of what would be the tenants, there is also a gate to access, in and out of the storage, area as well. Also for, fire truck access and things around the building. So that's another reason for the larger aprons as well.
Anything else? George, did you want to give a conclusion or where we're at?
Well, I think as I indicated earlier, obviously, we're not able to act on this, and we need to refer to DDA. I think that what you have is a good original concept plan. I mean, I understand where he's going with it. I think these types of units are popular with like I say, with small contractors, and it's an opportunity to create some employment in the community, which is good. I think we've discussed a lot of the revisions he needs to make to the design. It seems to me that other than the various that needs to go to BZA, the only other real big thing is the driveway widths and the facade material plan. I think, between now and the next meeting, hopefully we can get some of that resolved. But, I don't see, other than that, I don't see any real issues with the project.
And just for the record, I forgot to mention your memo. So you did provide one for this, and your last, summing it up, preliminary site development plan approval will require a setback variance for the building on Crick Road and a parking determination by the commission.
And he's indicated he's addressing the part of the
Yes.
issues like agreeing to pay, so that will go away.
Any questions from the board?
Mayor Colgraf.
Yes.
Just a comment, just want to thank you all for coming tonight and presenting this very early preliminary design and plan for a good project. I mean, we're in Walton Hills, the projects come on in different sizes, large, small, intermediate. I concur with my neighbor here that, as far as the buildings themselves, as close to the code as possible, would be a good thing. Once the buildings are up and the landscape is there, it's there for a long time. So that's the only thing I have to say. Thank you all for coming tonight.
Thank you.
I similarly
Now-
concur with the materials, yes, preferably matches building code, or our code standards.
Any comments from anyone else? Okay, everybody good? Can I ask for a motion to table the application to a future meeting? Or I'll make the motion.
Mayor Colgraf, members of the commission, I'd like to offer a motion to table the 7140 Northville Road proposed industrial development until BZA and other matters are taken care of.
Second, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Alex Long. Vote on the motion. Alexander Long.
Yes.
Janice
Yes.
St. John.
Yes.
Councilman Whedon.
Yes.
Mayor Colgraf, yes. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Can I make one additional request? Is that when you come back, it's really helpful to this board if you have drawings of what you're envisioning. It's very helpful to us, so we'd appreciate that if at all possible.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You can never give us enough visual. Is that?
Right,
I mean, that's,
Okay. Thank you very much.
okay, thank you.
thank you. At this time, we have, under new business, we have item B, which is 02026-02-7310 Dunham Road, a variance request, the codified ordinance 1231.08, uses prohibited / riparian setbacks. Before I ask for everybody to speak, at this time, Mr. Kalman, I just want you to explain to everybody why we're addressing a riparian setback, and either granting a variance or not granting it versus the zoning board, why it's different, just so everybody understands that. Because usually zoning boards grant variances. So if you just want to come to the mic and just explain, hope I didn't catch you off guard, but I know you know this very well. You know all the zoning stuff very well.
Yeah, so this is the only variance that the planning commission hears. All other variances are heard by the Board of Zoning Appeals. I guess because it most closely deals with land development is why it was the decision to put it in front of planning. So it just, this case, like any other, anybody wants to do any development and they're near or within the riparian setback, precedent cases are two new houses we did in the past on Egbert Road. They were close to rivers, and they relocated their driveway plan so they could be as far away from the riparian setback as possible. We've done those like in the last 4 years. Two of those have come before the board, and it's not often, but that's why this is before this board.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, just because it's a variance and our zoning board is variance, they do swear in anybody that talks. So we want to be consistent. I just want to tell you that in case you go, we didn't ask the first person, but that's because this is different. So and George, you say I can swear everybody in at once?
All at once.
So does who puts their hand on the Bible? Because usually I do one at a time.
They just raise their hands.
Okay.
Anyone who wants to speak, if they raise their hand, you can swear them all.
All right, that's what we'll do. Janice, you want to do it, or you want me to do it? Since you're an attorney, I probably should have.
You're fine, It's Mayor.
All right. Okay, everybody please raise your right hand. Who's going to speak tonight? Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you are about to give before this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under the penalty of law? I do? Okay. Thank you. All right. Okay. So at this time, I ask who's ever going to speak on behalf of item B, same as the applicant before, just kind of tell us your name, if you represent, and why you're here tonight.
Sure, my name is Jeff Snell. We previously met on a site visit earlier this week. I represent Mr. and Mrs. Demore, who live at 7310 Dunham Road. We did a site visit at the site. We appreciate you all visiting and walking through the site. I want to put some context of what brings us here today. Mr. and Mrs. Demore have been cited by the village with regard to violations of the setback, the riparian setback. That's pending in municipal court, and the court asked that the parties come back and start from square one and see whether we could resolve this issue. I became involved in this issue just a couple of weeks ago and didn't actually understand until Mr. Kalman called me last week and said he needed a site visit after calling my clients, that they had applied for this variance. So we appreciate you coming out for the site visit so you could see it. The site, according to the USGS, is draining in that rear area 38 acres of property. Your ordinance provides a 50-foot riparian setback, 25 and 25 on each side of the riparian, for any area that drains half a square mile or less. That's 320 acres. This area, according to the USGS, is draining 38 acres. Mr. Demore, so you're also aware, Mr. Gelati's team from Chagrin Valley annually do an inspection of the retention area that you saw behind his house and the neighbor's house. There's the retention area that we were at. That area is reviewed every year, and there was a report this year. Part of that is the Demores have to continue to cut the grass all the way around so everything is accessible, make sure none of the weeds are interfering. There were a couple of recommendations which Mr. Demore has done, removing some things, making sure the water flows appropriately. The water from his house, as well as the neighbor's house, I believe the neighbor is here, and Mr. and Mrs. Demore's other property, essentially 3 properties, drain into that. There's no house on that other property. So there's a small driveway. You were there, you can witness that. There's a small dirt driveway around that retention area. Mr. Demore then cuts that grass all the way around there every week in order for that to stay open so the water continues to flow and no one has an issue with their water. Mr. Demore, there is some land there that we looked at. Mr. Demore widened that area. There's a silt fence that's right at the bottom of the area where he put the fill into that area. There was a plat when that subdivision was created. By the way, I generated a letter for you like yesterday with all the attachments, hoping you would get that in advance, but I realized it wasn't emailed. You only got it a couple of minutes before the meeting started. But I tried to set forth the position so you would have that information. But this is that plat, and the plat delineates the wetland that was signed by the village, signed by the engineer, of where the wetland was. I then shared with you on site, and I think it's in your materials, I took the Cuyahoga County GIS site and measured the distance between the 2 adjoining properties, the pin straight back, and came up with about 75 feet before you hit the riparian. I also bought the USGS map here, and then and I can provide Mr. Gelati any of that backup information. And then Mr. Kalman was kind enough to take the map that the village has, it's its official map, which apparently is maintained on a computer database, I think, at Chagrin Valley, of the riparian. And he did an estimate that it's 69.79 feet from the property line. So that would mean the variance would be 6 feet, 6 feet of the 50 feet that is required. I kind of walked you through the property, and we started at the south end. We started there for a purpose, because when you look at that area, you were clearly able to see that it's really a residential ditch. I mean, there wasn't a significant amount of water. It was a residential ditch. That's all part of this riparian area. And then a few hundred feet away is where we get to the retention area. So I went through your ordinance, looked at all of it, and it says that there is one document indicated as the riparian setback map of the village, and it requires certain things. It says it's a reference point, it's also a guide only, and it has this disclaimer on it. I was able to find that on the village website. You know what that is. I put a copy of it in there. This is the riparian map. I realize there's another map out there, but this is the one that's attached to the ordinance. Mr. Demore, you can see his property. The only way for him to access from one side to the other side of the property, he can't go through the retention area. He can go through this small path that's around the retention area. He added to that, there was dirt there, he added on top of that to make it wider to get through. The question for you tonight is this a hardship based on your ordinance? And we're hopeful that we can resolve at least this matter and move forward. There are certain standards as it relates to that. You know, in determining whether it's an unnecessary hardship with respect to the use of the property or practical difficulty with respect to maintaining the riparian setback. The riparian setback, I wanted you to understand, is for 320 acres. In other words, that 50 feet is based on any space that drains 320 or less acres of property, because that's a half a square mile. This area drains 0.06 acres or 38 acres. So is it reasonable to assume, based on the conditions that are there, that the water course is not going to be affected by shrinking the width by 6 feet? I actually believe that there doesn't need to be a variance based on the original map that was the platted map that was approved. But if we take Mr. Kalman's measurement, it's 6 feet. So we'd still have at least 42 feet of riparian. We cleared an area there that day because we wanted you to actually see what is the water course. And if you remember, you walk to the edge of it, close to the back of the hill, and it's a series of kind of disjointed puddles. There is no structure being placed here. We're happy to landscape and improve the side. Mr. and Mrs. Demore planned to plant trees and other vegetation there, but we didn't plant anything there because it's a pending legal matter and we need to resolve it. Does the variance impair the flood control of that area? Does it present some hardship? Does it erode? Is it part of the 100-year floodplain? It really is not. It's obvious that just a few hundred feet away, it's much more like a residential ditch than anything. And when it gets to this area, it's kind of a disjointed, almost wet area, not necessarily a defined bank or stream. Whether the property is buildable or whatever, we don't plan to do anything. We don't even plan to put stone in this area. He just wants a dirt path so he can be able to clearly get from one side of his property to the other side of his property without, I guess, going down Dunham Road. Because otherwise, that's the only way around. You can't go through the retention area. The neighbor has an 8-foot fence, which I believe was a variance too, right up against there, so we can't see any of that area. But we are trying to be able to get from both sides of the property, and that's what this dirt does. I realize the bank needs to be stabilized, so do the moors. We haven't done that because of the pending litigation. We haven't moved anything or done anything to change it. It's exactly in the same condition. We believe that he needs that space in order to get around the property. Do we intend to make it impervious? The answer is no. It's still gonna be a dirt path. It's just gonna be a little wider. He does need to access that because he does need to cut that riparian, the retention area and maintain it. And then once a year, as Chagrin Valley has advised, and he does, he cuts all the weeds in the center of that pond and hauls them out in the late fall, early winter, so there's no problem in that. I would hope that, you know, given that it's only draining 38 acres and could potentially drain 320 acres under the same 50 feet, it's obvious that it is not an area that is going to be impacted when it has a 42-foot riparian area, you know, a setback for that riparian area. It's obvious it's a headwater, it's an intermittent stream, it's not some area, a water course that's full of water all the time. There are other issues that Mr. Kalman has brought to our attention with regard to other things that are on the property that are going to need to be addressed. We're not here to address them. We're going to, but the first matter of business is, can we receive, you know, based on Mr. Kalman's estimation, a 6-foot variance? And if we can, there's still a 42-foot riparian area for this 38-acre drainage area. We're hopeful that we can resolve it. We appreciate all the patience you've shown in looking at this, and I'm happy to address any questions. I asked for Mr. Kalman for various questions with regard to this, but I realize it's a short time frame, so it's hard to respond to all that. So I don't know if they have any responses to it. But to my knowledge, when you look, I just want to finish with one thing. First, Mr. Kalman shared with me almost immediately after the meeting, far faster than I could do, the map that is, quote, the official map, right, which is this map that I included. But when you look at the course here of this riparian, and then you look at what is indicated on this plat, they differ. They differ in how, you know, this almost parallels right up against the existing little trail area, right? That little path, that dirt path. But over here, it's different. It veers off as it goes north. It veers to the west. And this is the one that was approved. So I don't know, and I haven't had enough time to sort out, you know, the question I asked was, if this plat was approved by the village and it lists the riparian area, why is this riparian so different than, quote, the official map? But the real official map is this map, which shows really nothing because it's very large. I mean, it's hard to tell off it. But this is the one attached to the ordinance. You know what I mean? I'm not trying to be difficult. I'm just trying to find a reasonable resolution of this. And I think Mr. Demore is entitled to be able to reasonably gain access to the other side of his property. He's obviously been maintaining that. He's trying to get from one side to the other. And he has almost 11 acres there. The retention area impedes that ability. We definitely have to keep that path on the top of the retention area open. It's probably a condition, I didn't see this yet, but it is a condition of that the retention area. You have to keep it open, you have to cut it. Mr. Demore shared with me, it's thrilling to cut it on his John Deere because it's such an angle, you can almost feel like the tractor's gonna tip because it is very steep. I think it's reasonable that he has access to both sides of his property. I don't think a 6 foot, I don't think it's actually 6 foot, but I'll take it, right? That's the estimate. If it's a 6 foot variance, it's not gonna impede anything. We need to address the rest of this and make sure it's properly done, and we will do that in compliance with Mr. Kalman and the village engineer and anyone else who wants to come out and inspect it. We'll make sure it's done properly, but we can't do that until we either resolve our litigation and or at least we'll still have to resolve that, but we have to resolve the variance. If you choose not to grant a variance tonight, we have no authority to come back to you unless we find more evidence for at least a year. So we're just kind of stuck in this dilemma. The reasonable question is it a hardship that he can't get from one side to the other? Mr. Kalman said to me, well, he can get on that little dirt path and make it. Yeah, he was driving around on a golf cart, but he actually drives around on a John Deere to be able to cut everything. And, you know, I have one of those. You have a wheat cutter behind you. It's a very large little apparatus as you do that. We're not going to put any other improvements. You can put any conditions on there. You can make us landscape. You can make sure that we comply with the village on this embankment, that we restore the area, that we make sure that the silt fence is properly installed. We're willing to do all of that. We believe it's reasonable, and we hope you grant the variance. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have and appreciate all the time you spent on this.
I only have one question for you. What I will do is I will go through our comments, talk to our board, just like the last one, and then I'll ask at the end if anybody has anything else to add. So can you rephrase for the board here, just for clarity, the hardship?
Yeah,
that's really what we're focusing on tonight, just so everybody knows. We are focusing on whether or not it has a hardship, and a hardship is what we have to act on, black and white, whether there's a hardship that meets our code and the reason for hardships, what's laid out there.
Yep.
And if it meets that, then it's up. If we don't, if there's not a hardship, it's not opinion, it's about whether or not there's a hardship, black and white. So my question to you, I would like you to rephrase what the hardship is, and then I have a question for you.
Okay, so I'll read it right from your ordinance, Mayor. So in determining whether there's an unnecessary hardship with respect to the use of a property or practical difficulty with respect to maintaining the riparian setback as established by the regulation, meaning the 50 feet, such as to justify the granting of a variance, the Planning Commission shall consider the potential harm or reduction in riparian functions that may be caused by the proposed structure or use. So I'd answer that question by saying, shrinking it from 50 feet to 44 feet will not reduce the riparian function, because as you know, it's all the way over on the other side and it's quite small, whatever this water thing is that's over there. The Planning Commission may not authorize a structure or use in a zoning district other than those authorized by the zoning code. There's absolutely no structure that we're going to put here. Next is the variance shall be void if not implemented within a year. And then it says, in making the determination under Division A of this section, the Planning Commission may consider 1, the natural vegetation of the property as well as the percentage of the parcel that is in the 100-year floodplain. The criteria under Chapter 1468, the floodplain damage reduction, may be used as a guidance when granting variances in the 100-year floodplain. There's no evidence that this is in the 100-year floodplain at all. The extent to which the requested variance impairs flood control, erosion control, water quality protection, or other functions of the riparian setback. This determination shall be based on sufficient technical and scientific data. I've seen no evidence of that, and it's obvious when you look at it that there's plenty of area for that to travel. I mean, just a few hundred feet away, it's literally just a small ditch. The degree of hardship with respect to the use of the property or the degree of practical difficulty with respect to maintaining the riparian setback as established in this regulation placed on the landowner by this regulation and the availability of alternatives to the proposed structure, none, or use. Mr. Demore is simply trying to make sure he can gain safe access from one side of his property to the other, and the the retention area impedes that. You can't do anything on the retention area. You obviously can't go against the fence. It's way too close. Soil disturbing activities permitted in the riparian setback through variances should be implemented to minimize clearing to the extent possible and to include best management practices necessary to minimize erosion control, erosion and control sediment. So there are, when I was there and we were looking, I pointed at a couple of posts. At the bottom of that embankment, that's where the silt fence is. The silt fence is right there. So it's within that area. We will enhance that if we need to do that. The presence of significant impervious cover or smooth vegetation, such as maintained lawns in the riparian setback, compromises its benefits to the village. Variance should not be granted for asphalt or concrete paving in the riparian setbacks. Variances may be granted for gravel driveways when necessary. We're not going to put gravel in. There's no concrete. There's no asphalt. We're not trying to do any of that stuff. We're leaving it in its natural state, and we haven't cut any grass there. We're not trying to do that. Whether the property is otherwise buildable under the ordinances or will be made unbuildable because of this regulation. It's not buildable. We're not trying to build there. And it is somewhat unbuildable, right? We're trying to just get a path that's safe from one side of his property to the other side. So widening that was what he did. In order to maintain the riparian setback to maximize the extent practical, the Planning Commission may consider granting variations to other area or setback requirements imposed on the property by the zoning code. I don't know another way to solve this problem, but that's try to open that up for you. And last, in granting a variance under this regulation, the Planning Commission, for good cause, may impose such conditions as it deems appropriate to maintain the purposes of the regulation. So in summary, Mayor, the real issue is, his hardship is, his undue burden is, he needs to be able to access both sides of his property safely, and he needs that width in order to do that. If he doesn't have that, then he still has to maintain the retention area, and he would have to drive around Dunham Road to get to both sides of the property.
Thank you.
Sure.
Because your last sentence and last little summary is all I needed. Because my question to you, okay, is in his submitted documents, he's at a 9 foot wide and he wants to go to 24. Is 9 foot not wide enough to get a tractor over?
Well,
that's in the documents. His submitted documents is he has 9 foot access. He's asking for 24. I can tell you this, I can drive a pretty good sized truck over a 9 foot access. What I have in front of me is documents that say he has 9 foot access. To get, your hardship is he can't, without this, he can't, but before this, there was 9 feet there. What I understand, so I want to understand the hardship, because I want to be very clear with this. Because that's all we're in front of this board here. He had 9 foot. It was 9 foot wide enough to do what he has to do. That's what's in front of this chair. Okay?
Yep.
Increasing it to 24 foot, we could probably put 3 or 4 cars side by side, maybe even have a 4-lane highway there. Okay?
so
My thing was there's 9 feet. With 9 feet, you don't even have to go in the riparian setback.
So,
Okay?
Mr.
And I
Mayor,
want to make something clear that I understand, and we have many streams in the village of Walton Hills, okay, many, and most of them end up going into the Tinkers Creek watershed, which this community is very, very aware and very concerned about it. I have seen some creeks around here that are high-flowing creeks in a rainstorm and have this much water in a dry time. So to say something has a puddle and doesn't have water at that, unless somebody actually went back there, but that looks kind of more like a natural dugout, and there is, as you have confirmed many times, there is an embankment. And embankments are what? To prevent the flow over, unless maybe you have a 100-year storm, as you noted. So sometimes things are dry, but the purpose of them is to accommodate a 100-year storm.
So-
That is what I understand. So I'm just curious, there was 9 feet there. The documents are asking to go to 24 feet.
We're not asking go to 24, Mr. Mayor. So I became involved late in this process. I understand.
That's
I
fine.
didn't make the application. I didn't review that application before it was made to you. But what is there, what we saw on the site visit, is not 24 feet wide, and it's not going to be 24 foot wide. It's going to be exactly what you see. What you saw was a very small dirt path, a width, that the golf cart traveled upon. You could see the route of the golf cart in that area, and then he expanded on that. That whole area from the bottom of the retention pond to the disturbance next to the silt fence may be 24 feet, but the actual space upon which you drive is about 10 or 12 feet, because it's higher, much higher than the retention area, and much higher than what is the embankment. I'm not here to debate it. I'm not an expert on.
I'm not debating,
Well,
I'm talking
I'm-
about what's in the submission.
I understand, and so I am happy to
And that's
amend.
what we approve.
I am, well, you approve whatever your conditions are, and I'm saying to you, I mean, you can make whatever conditions those are. The
I'm not making
area
conditions.
of
He's saying
draw,
he has
well,
9 feet.
just, can I at least try to respond?
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
The area in which he seeks to travel is going to be about 10 to 12 feet. When you look at that area, originally, that path was right next to another embankment and the retention on the other side. In other words, they were both, it's kind of like the trestle on Alexander, you know what I mean? It just is narrow, and this is the top. We are not seeking 24 feet. We are happy to say it will be no more than 10 to 12 feet. We are talking about a 6-foot variance at most, and I would maintain that I don't even think it's exactly 6 feet, but I want to be safe. So he needs 10 to 12 feet of width at the top. We're happy to accept that. We're happy to amend our request to do that. We are trying to resolve this matter so he can get from both sides. If you're not inclined, I realize the mayor's passionate. I am too. I live in Sagamore, and the mayor knows this. We work on other projects together. We have a great relationship between the two communities. But the ultimate issue is this is not in a 100-year floodplain. This is a intermittent, it drains the area from up on, up by, where am I? Dunham. What's the other one? What's the other? Egbert, I apologize. My grandparents lived on Egbert. How I can't remember that. But up on Egbert on the
Grandma
hill.
would be mad at you.
What's that?
Grandma would
Grandma
be
be
mad.
very mad at me. But if you go to the top of the hill, when you see the houses on the right as you're coming up, that's the area that drains. It's 38 acres according to USGS. It is not 320 acres. It is not, half a square mile. It's a relatively small area. I understand the passion. You want to make sure everything drains. But obviously, the one neighbor has made it a very small residential ditch, and it still seems to accommodate the water. And the village chose, whoever runs Dunham and, the water comes from the other side of Dunham. There's a pipe under Dunham Road that accommodates this too in a flood, and I've never seen that area of Dunham flood. So with all due respect, I don't think you're going to run into, the 6 feet is not going to change the floodplain and flood out all these houses. There's clearly plenty of room for the water to go. We're simply trying to get access from both sides of the property.
This is all based on observation and anecdotal evidence, and in our ordinance, it says it requires like scientific and technical documentation to make a decision.
Yep.
Um,
I don't have any scientific, let me share with you this. So I was aware of this appeal last week, right? And accommodate us, so I did. The question I've had is, you know, there is technical data here based on the map. There's also data, you know, there's a map that's generated out of your village engineer. I was questioning, what is the official map of a riparian?
well,
And
true, I understand that, and that's very true. We don't even know, I mean, I find it hard to, I don't know, make a variance when we aren't clear on if it's even in, if it even requires one, if it's in the
So-
riparian setback.
I will say this, I hired, you know, we talked to a surveyor, and we were planning for a court hearing later this month, and he was supposed to be able to survey it. As I shared, he was on vacation until Tuesday, and I can't get a survey that quickly. I can attempt to do that if that's something that you want to do, but I cannot do it on a 2-day notice. Does that make sense? I have lined him up to do that in order to address, you know, any issues. If you want to share any other concerns, we can do that.
Can I just make one point? Because, and I just want to be clear, Jeff, I don't want people to, and to form an opinion. You just got involved because you were just asked. When we get applications, when they give an application, they're asking us to come to the next zoning board, planning commission.
Right.
Okay? And at that time, we follow our regular protocol. They get everything at the same time that everybody did a year or two ago. Okay? If the applicant isn't ready, no one rushed anybody. I know you just got asked now, and you can say you didn't have enough time. That is just to make a reflection. That isn't on the board. It's not like all of a sudden we said, oh, the meeting's up, and now you're rushed. When the person applies for this, hopefully they have all their ducks in a row. If they don't, that's fine, because you can still go to the meeting and ask for the same thing. But I just want to make it clear for the record, this meeting was planned according to the applicants have put in. They asked us to be on the next agenda.
And I certainly understand that you're
So I
mayor.
just kind of want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
nothing got here the last minute, nothing. I just want to make it clear, we follow the same, we get that. The reason everybody got it today, because you submitted it, I don't even know, yesterday.
no, that was submitted in June.
So-
It was submitted in June by Mr.
Yeah.
DeMore.
Oh,
And Mr.
I'm
DeMore,
talking about some of those materials.
oh, yeah.
You know,
So I'm
there's-
happy to take these materials and have a professional figure out where that riparian area is. I asked some of those questions of Mr. Kelman about, like, how is that calculated based on that map? And if we can take a step back to do that, I'm happy to do that if that helps the board in resolving this issue.
Joe, did you have, it seemed like you, or,
I was just gonna say,
Yeah.
for the record, the planning commission application was submitted on June 11th.
okay.
So I think this is part of the court process, because there was a question of go back and make this request, so he did that. And I understand that maybe there's a fee related to an engineer review of it, is that right? Yo, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
I haven't brought up the court case in this whole time, but since you opened that door, I'd like to address that.
And we will not, I want to make it clear, we will not discuss the court case. We will not accept, that is not what is before the board,
Okay.
Right.
okay? That has, we as a board, right now, I'm sorry, Rob, we right now, because when we're in litigation, it's not our right to talk about if our law solicitor was here or our prosecutor, he can talk about it. It's not fair to that party or to this party to discuss the litigation.
Okay.
What is in front of the planning commission right now is an application for a variance to be able to work in the riparian setback.
Okay.
Okay, that is what is before the board. I've been around a little bit. The advice from my law solicitor is anytime anything gets in litigation, Mayor, that they should be part of it, they should speak on that behalf. And it's only fair to both parties. And we should be, because that really has nothing to do with it. What is in front of us is just what our discussion right now.
Sure.
You're giving us the reasons for the hardship, and that's what's in front of us. I just have to say, we have to stay in our lane here, and that's out of respect for everybody in this room. Not only do I have a responsibility to residents, I also have a responsibility to the village of Walton Hills, and our law solicitor keeps me in that check.
Okay, and I
You,
respect,
of all people, probably should understand that well.
I understand
I'm
that, I
sure
do
you
it,
that
I do it
same-
right across the border.
I know that, and
So-
you do a great job.
So-
I know you trust.
And I trust what you do, but here's what I would suggest. If this is still a troubling issue and you want technical advice, I would ask that you table this and give us an opportunity to provide that additional information. My concern was, the thing I'm not supposed to talk about I haven't even entered an appearance, that is at the end of August. So I wanted to try to at least be here before that, because I think that was something that was requested to be done. So we did that. If we need to get additional documentation, we can get that. I just couldn't generate it as quick as I wish I could. So I'm happy to do that, work with the engineer, and make sure that we delineate what is there exactly. So you have it in an exact plan of what it is. And I think that's fair to you, and I hope that's fair to all parties. So
Okay.
I'm happy to do that.
Rob, did you want to make a comment? Go ahead.
This has to do with the disturbance, whether it's in or not in the riparian setback. I was asked, and this is the only part I'm bringing up about litigation, I was asked to provide a path to compliance, and I did. Now, I sent several emails regarding this. A SWIP plan needs to be provided.
Okay.
That plan and that deposit triggers CDE having inspections on that land, okay? That is the most important time. Let everything else, if this board tables it, if it goes to court, whatever. What we have right now is raw earth that was contaminated with asphalt and pipe and garbage going.
All right, Rob. All right.
I'm just saying,
No,
I
no,
want
please.
the sediment filter there.
We're not-
That's all I'm saying.
Okay. Well, I don't
Okay,
want.
but
We're not going to get.
those emails didn't come to me, but I'm happy to try to comply with whatever it is
Okay.
we need to
I'm gonna
comply.
pull us back in again. So here's where we're at. Okay, at this time, Joe, your letter to us still the same?
Yeah, still the same.
Okay, I would like to read it in record, okay? Anything that we're voting on, I read in the record. Before, I didn't read it in record because that was just a preliminary plan to the planning commission. We weren't voting on anything. So this is from Joe Gelati, our PE from Chagrin Valley Engineering. The Village of Walton Hills retains a professional engineer we use for our projects, we use for anything that's related or requested to have an engineer. He represents the village. So when it comes to plan review, he also sees the review. And this committee and myself, we rely on that opinion. Just like I mentioned with the law solicitor, I get an opinion from the law solicitor, I follow it, okay? I don't follow it, I have to answer to it. I follow what he says he has to answer to. So here's how it works. We received a memo from the Planning Commission, which the applicant has received, and if you represent them, you have received these memos too. Everything I have in front of me, the applicants have all received, okay? And even given time to comment on them. Is that correct, board? They were given time to comment on them? Yes, okay. So 6/24/2026. This is from Joe Gelati, our professional engineer, regarding plan review comments 7310 Dunham Road. We have reviewed the Planning Commission submittal for the above work named project, received 6/11/26. We offer the following. It has come to attention that fill material was recently placed along the outside of the southwesterly berm of the detention pond located behind the homes at addresses 7300 and 7310 Dunham Road. Photos of the fill are provided with the Planning Commission application. Okay, so they were submitted. No permit application was submitted to the village and no permit was issued by the village prior to placement of this fill. See attached map showing the approximate location of the fill material. Placement of this fill material would have required a grading permit per chapter 1280 of Village Code. Item 3, some of the village fill material appears to have been placed within the riparian setback as shown on the attached map. Placement of the fill within the riparian setback is prohibited per chapter 1291-08 unless a variance is granted per chapter 1291.10. The application form to the Planning Commission of 6/11/26 only checks for residential. There is no check mark for variance. It is only assumed that the applicant is requesting a variance from the Planning Commission to the riparian setback code. The photos attached to the application show the fill that has been placed. The photos indicate, and that is the photos from the applicant, indicate only that the seed, straw, and erosion protection will be installed on the areas in which the fill has been placed. There is no indication of additional fill or grading. There is no indication that the fill will be removed. Chapter 1291-10 provides guidelines to the Planning Commission when considering a variance. Both 1291.10 A1 and 1291.10B3 indicate that the Commission needs to consider the degree of the practical difficulty placed on the landowner by the presence of the riparian setback. So here's his conclusion. The applicant should provide the Planning Commission with their practical difficulty. In the absence of an acceptable practical difficulty, the Commission should not grant a variance. Instead, a plan of remediation should be submitted to the village to bring the site into compliance. Okay? Now we also have a letter from our planner, our consultant, George Smerigan. George, do you want to give a little bit of your background? Just for anybody watching, and maybe Jeff and the applicant might not understand. I know they're familiar with Joe as a professional engineer. I want just George to give his, just a little bit of background, George.
I have a master's in city and regional planning. I have been practicing as a professional planner for over 50 years.
Now we know your age.
Yeah, unfortunately. Just have to look at my hair. I currently, in addition to working with Walton here, I currently serve by contract as the city planner for the city of Beechwood, the city of Peckham Pike, the city of Lawrenceville Heights, the city of Strongsville, and the city of Homestead Falls. I regularly appear before planning commissions, boards of zoning appeals, and city councils to provide professional advice and expertise in land use, land development, and zoning matters.
So at this time, I'd like to read his memo in the record that we have in front of us along with the applicant. So this is from George Smerigan. His date is July 23rd, 2026. And then he has the subject, Edward and Toanne Demore, 7310 Dunham Road, work within the riparian setback. The applicants have performed work within the riparian setback and have indicated their desire to perform additional work. The work performed includes the placement of fill material. The additional work proposed involves the placement of erosion, paper, hay, and seed. There are several issues with the proposed application. The first issue is that section 1291-06A requires that an application include a site plan prepared by a professional engineer, surveyor, landscape architect, or similar licensed professional. The application does not contain such a professional prepared site plan. Approval of the application without the code required professionally prepared site plan would require a variance. The second issue is that the applicant has placed fill material within the riparian setback. Section 1231-.08b specifically prohibits filling or dumping materials, and section 1291.08f prohibits the disturbance of the natural vegetation except as specifically authorized by chapter 1291.
That work was performed without a permit and is clearly in violation of the chapter. Unless a variance is granted for this work, it would have to be removed and the area remediated pursuant to an approved remediation plan. It does not appear that the application as submitted is in approval form. In addition, no evidence has been provided that would meet the standards set forth in section 1291.10 to support the granting of the required variances. It does not appear that the commission can act favorably on the request as submitted, either as an application for riparian setback permit pursuant to section 1291.06 or as a variance request pursuant to section 1291.10. Okay, so those are our two professional opinions that we use on every plan review that comes before us. Then we do have a detail which you received dated July 30th, 2026 from Mr. Kalman, our street commissioner, zoning inspector, that outlines everything here. He has, he's got a July 30th, Mayor Colograph, Planning Commission members regarding 7310 Dunham Road. I've reviewed the plan submitted by Edward and Toan Demore of 7310 Dunham Road. I hope I'm not saying your name wrong. I apologize for that if I am. For the Planning Commission's consideration of a variance codified ordinance 1291.0B and F. Uses prohibited riparian setbacks. I offer the following comments for the Commissioner's consideration. The applicant is seeking a variance through the village's codified ordinance 1291.0B and F, which regulates work being performed in the riparian setback. The work consists of widening an existing path noted as road on submitted documents from 9 foot to 24 foot. A swept SWPPP permit bond needs to be deposited with the building department for permitting an inspection, installed work, or remediated work. Have we received any of that?
No.
Okay. The granting of the variance and appropriate consideration is outlined in the village codified ordinances 1291-10 to determine practical difficulty or hardship. Included is a site codified ordinance for the village engineer, village planner, Walton Hills Building Department. Pictures of the dumped and graded materials in and near the riparian setback. I wanted to read that. He gave us all that information, and we have a lot of pictures in front. I just want to share that, you know, I feel I have a lot of information here. What's in front of me based on the applicant for the setback. And that's what I have. Would anybody like to, Joe, at this time, anybody else want to make a comment?
Yeah, I guess I jotted a few notes as I was listening to the testimony for the representative of our planning commission here. As it was noted, there's already a 9-foot road there to connect the two pieces of property. So it seems to me the question is 9 foot sufficient to get from one side to the other? I would think that it is. I don't want the commission to be confused by the various maps that Mr. Snell refers to. The only thing that governs is our written code right here, the riparian setback chapter, and I'll read you the exact words. It says a minimum of 25 feet on either side of all water courses, draining an area less than 1/2 square mile. So I don't want there to be any confusion trying to bounce back and forth between the various maps. That's all that matters, that wording right there. The applicant has not provided, and you touched on this a little bit long, has not provided any hydraulic calculations to prove to us that shrinking the setback from 50 feet to 44 feet will be okay, so we probably shouldn't consider that. And as we noted before, the application was submitted on June 11th, almost 2 months ago, so they've had almost 2 months to prepare. We've not provided any of the professional information that George requested in his memo.
Yes.
Can I just respond? At
Yeah.
the beginning, you said your client has received all these things, so therefore you've received all these things. I can say
No, I didn't
that
say you received
well,
it, they received it.
I understand,
Whenever
but
they give them to you,
can I-
that's on them, that's
can-
not up to us.
I understand. But even the
Until
July,
you got on board, you received all the information we had that you requested from Rob. Is
Okay.
that correct?
here,
When you requested
can I
something?
respond? Just let me respond.
That's the
I
benefit I have
don't-
as chairman.
What's that?
That's the benefit I have as chairman.
I know that.
You know that.
I'm just trying to respond.
I know, go ahead.
So first, I don't have Joe's memo, and I did not reach out to Mr. Gelati about the riparian at all. I've only dealt with Rob. I am not aware of the planner's report. I asked both of them, I stepped away at a point to ask them if they had that. I don't have that. That's not an excuse. I understand. It's attributed to me.
The applicant
right?
received.
Last, the July 30th memo that you have there, I don't have that either. I am asking for an opportunity to get the professional report with regard to this so we can get it resolved on an expedited basis. If you choose not to do that, I mean, so in fairness here, I could have said, when you asked me last week, are you prepared to go forward? I said, well, I'm really not. I wasn't even aware of it. Give me the application. He sent that to me. And then I started a conversation and started looking at maps. I am not an expert in your field, Joe, and I appreciate that I need help in doing that. And I went to Stan Locke to do the surveying work. Stan has been unable to do that, was on vacation till Tuesday. So I am happy to try to provide that information. If the commission doesn't want to do that, that's fine. I guess you could take a vote on it. I don't control your decision or what the chair decides to do, but I would like to try to get it resolved. So
I just want to make something clear. We gave all the information to the applicant, okay? When the applicant retains somebody, that is their duty to give that material. You did, Rob, you act like you did forward that stuff to,
I forwarded it to the commission and the applicant all at the same time.
I don't have a July 30th memo. I'm not trying to be difficult here. I'm really not
and
trying to be
that's really not
cagey.
the issue. Does the applicant have the July 30th?
Do you want to respond?
I don't know if I was gonna speak.
Can she speak?
And I also,
Did she raise her hand?
I did not, but can I please?
Yeah, you can, yeah, let's just do it.
Please
I just
swear.
have to be,
No.
I'm not trying to be, I just have to be.
By the way, I appreciate how you swear people in, because sometimes they make you repeat everything, and you just read it and then say, I do. Perfect.
I just have to be consistent because it's only fair, because some people say, well, if I didn't have to swear, not that they would, thing they just don't like. Please repeat after me. Raise your right hand, please. Do you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give this board will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of law?
I do.
Okay, thank you.
Please state your name.
Toyanne Moore, live on Dunham Road.
The microphone.
Yeah, you want to come up here.
Okay.
Give your address and your name.
Toyanne Moore, 7310 Dunham Road. Okay. As far as receiving copies of anything, I have stated to Rob in the past, I need a phone call before I receive emails. I do not receive all of my emails. As a matter of fact, he sent something saying I got an email on April 28th. There was nothing on April 28th. I went all the way back through my mail, through my spam and my junk. I don't have it. Now Lisa does call me when I get an email. I requested not to get emails, to have paper copies sent. I am not a person who checks emails, reads emails all the time, and we have horrible internet service.
That's fine. Did you receive the documents from this package?
I'm not sure what all documents you're talking about. I don't have my phone to bring up an email. I did not receive paper documents.
She has been forwarding me whatever she receives.
I do not
I'm
receive.
not trying to be cagey on this. I'm
Yes.
just trying to be,
Okay.
I don't know what's in the list.
Yes.
I'm
And
happy
as-
to get it, and I should have probably done a public records request, but as I said to Rob, I live in the public sphere, and I know what those requests are a pain in the butt. You just say, give me what you have. I don't have it. I'm happy to get the information, but the commission ultimately has to decide what they want to do here.
And also, you had stated there was not a rush, and I know ignorance does not count for the law. I do understand that. My husband and I understand that. Because of certain circumstances that are going on and have been going on, we were rushed. I did receive many notices and phone calls that we had to get my $150 check here, or cash here, or whatever, cash and check here, to get a variance. That had to be done. This proceeding and all of the documentation, that is ignorance, I apologize. But there was a rush on that, and we were told we had to get it in. The other thing was $2,800. We have to pay. That is the main reason we have gotten Jeff, because we have to pay $2,800, which has been a rush, and we have been told we have to get this done right away.
Is that the SWIFT plan?
For the SWIFT plant, yes, for them to come out and test the water, that we're not polluting the water.
So just hang tight.
But that's not, what I have in front of us,
But-
so we have to make a
Okay.
decision. I'm not gonna get into all that. I just wanted to ask you if you received the
No.
documents, and you answered that somewhat. Here's where we're at.
Some I have.
No, it's all fine, because this isn't a place to debate. I don't wanna get into debating.
Yeah,
You're
I'm
getting
not.
back into that.
Could I?
That is all hypothetical about I have an applicant
Yeah,
applied for this, okay? And they applied
okay.
for to work in the riparian setback. And that is exactly where we're at, okay?
Mhm.
So,
To-
let's,
can I
go
add
ahead.
something?
Yes, of course you can.
To be fair, whether or not you received the correspondence, you have access to our ordinances, and that is what governs all of this.
I understand, but he does say about getting the mail, that it was persistent
The
on
ultimate
that.
question.
Well, I
here
asked
is-
that. I agree. I didn't ask about me. I just wanted to ask if you got the memos.
Ms. Long, in fairness, we haven't done the study of the water. And
Correct.
the quality of the water,
Mhm.
and I was not aware until she just said $2,800
Yes.
that there was a SWIFT plan that was required. So I'm happy to try to come up with whatever it is, I don't know what that is, to do the SWIFT plan and sort that out so we can at least sort the quality of the water.
And this is
And
why
check-
we
we'll
got
just-
Jeff.
Yeah, I'm
I'm so
not gonna
sorry.
get it, because the whole thing about the SWIP plan, it all goes back to the thing, you needed a SWIP plan if you're gonna work in the riparian setback, okay? If there's no work performed in the riparian setback, you didn't need to do anything, okay? So we're getting back into that, what you guys are facing on a legal end. We're going right to that. Where we're at right now is, we have an application, application on whether or not to grant variance to work in the riparian setback. And, go ahead.
And we would request that you table it until your next meeting so we have an opportunity, and then you can decide what to do. You're
Okay, so I'm gonna just, go ahead, Alex, did you wanna say something?
Yeah, I mean, I want to be fair to, the folks going through this. I mean, if you do get the technical documentation and it is within the riparian setback, like, I can give you the information now that I would be unlikely to approve of a variance for that type of fill to flow into the stream, basically, based on the information already given to us. So I don't want them to have to go through things that, are moot.
And I'll give you my opinion, be honest with you. I see the 9 foot as what you're presenting to me. You summed it up after you read what our ordinance and how specific it is. And we got a pretty good ordinance, very specific on how we make our decisions here. This board's very well aware of it. I'm glad you read it in the record for anybody that's here. But I feel 9 foot gives that access to maintain that, which was already there, the 9 foot. You may get a decent sized tractor, get anything back there. I see a lot of large items already on that other side that were probably placed there before it was already increased from the 9 foot, okay? And maybe I'm wrong, I mean, it's just observation, I could be wrong. But I know 9 foot's pretty wide. We have as you know, we have a lot of streams in the village. We got a lot of pipes under people's driveways getting water. One of the things we face, like a lot of communities, are drainage issues, especially when you're as hilly as we are and stuff. So this isn't the first time where we've had to make decisions, not always this board, but the other boards, and based on can you get from one side to the other, and 9 foot, I don't see it. I mean, and I know you said you would change that, even at 6 foot, which would make it, 15 feet. I don't see that hardship, so I don't know, and that's gonna be my question to and maybe they won't be able to answer it. What would change? I mean, Alex you already kind of touched base on it, that you don't know if anything would change. It might even make it worse, in a sense. What do you, George, do you see anything that would change that? Change your opinion in that, based on whatever they would bring forward?
If it's the commission's determination that a 9-foot wide access way is sufficient to provide the connection that he claims was the hardship between the two properties, then it doesn't make any sense to prepare $2,800 worth of additional documentation if in your mind the 9 foot was adequate, because the whole issue here is there a hardship or practical difficulty, and if in your mind your determination a 9 foot was adequate, so we didn't have a practical difficulty or hardship, there's no sense in asking the applicant to spend additional money.
Yeah, if you're staking your argument on that, yeah.
Because if the issue is the 9 feet, then, you know whether or not you can get something over 9 feet.
Our question is very narrow here, and there's a lot of information brought up that's really not before this commission today. Is there a hardship with the 9 foot? And the request is 9 foot to 24 foot, which is quite large. I haven't seen too much testimony or evidence that the 9 foot presents a hardship.
I mean, yes, if you are staking your hardship claim on that statement, all of us have said that's not really, doesn't seem like a hardship. If there is a separate reason for the fill, if you were trying to prevent erosion, if you were trying, you know what I mean, if there was some other hardship that is more substantiated, maybe that would be worth more consideration.
One of the questions in your code is, and that's the requirement that the engineer had, is what is the quality of the water that is in the riparian area by virtue of this? And, we hear you, right? We hear your voices. We understand what you're telling us. I would like an opportunity for us to kind of sort out how we move forward. But if you want to act on this, I can't stop you from doing that. That's your prerogative, right? That's why I asked to table, because I think we need an opportunity to have a conversation with regard to it and sort out how we go forward. I hear what you're saying with regard to this. I am somewhat unclear exactly what was there. Was it exactly 9 feet? What is exactly there? There's photographs of that. I really need an expert to be able to sort that out. So I just tried to gather as much information as I can, not to mislead you, but to share instead what I could find, right? What was out there. Sure. And, I could have said to Mr. Coutman, he said to me, do you want to not go forward? And I said, well, it's scheduled. I want you to do the visit. Let's see if we can sort this out and resolve it. I hear what you're saying. You can decide how you want us to go forward, but we need to have a conversation to sort out too. I understand you're being cautious of us, which is don't spend $2,800 if it's not gonna improve it. I think I still need to talk to an expert to sort that out. The question for you is not the impact of it. Does it impact the quality of the water in that area? Does it change it? I don't know the answer to that yet, right? And I'm not an expert to sort it out. It's your ball. You run this commission, so you can decide what to do. But we hear you. We understand.
Mayor,
Yes, go ahead.
I just want, my comment is along the lines of which others have spoken already, and that is regarding the actual hardship. That's what's before this commission. We've heard, you know, the 9 foot, whatever it might be, on that property, get from one side to the other. And, you know, this is a 4-5-year-old ownership, something like that? Is that about right?
He's owned it for 4 years?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And so access to the other side has been prohibited before this work was being done?
No, but he widened it so
Okay.
it was safer and it wasn't a steep embankment.
Okay. So the other comment I had was, I thank you all for the site visit, that, you know, it put things in perspective beyond what we saw in the drawings, but I was actually surprised that not only did we have this piece of action widening to 24 feet, but also actual access, more work in the riparian for us to be able to walk into the stream. That kind of surprised me that we actually, a path had been made so that on the site visit day, this commission could walk down into the stream. So I'm concerned if this variance is granted for this work, what else might be coming down the pike?
I wanted him to be able to see, it's a path of grass. It was the width of a lawnmower, so you could see where the stream was in that area.
But it was actually more work already performed in the riparian area.
We took the vegetation so we could see where the stream was.
Exactly. More work already performed in the riparian area.
What is,
Oh,
Go.
I don't know. Did he?
okay, I know, I wanna, did you raise your hand when we swear you in?
I did, sir.
Okay. Let me ask the commission first. Are we ready to take comments, or would you do from other witnesses, or do you want to? We're going to eventually take anybody who raised their hands, so we always let everybody speak.
Yes.
Even when sometimes when we don't need to, but we make sure everybody gets there. But I won't debate. I won't let you debate. There won't be no debating. It will be strictly to the topic. Okay, to that testimony. We don't hear testimony that's based on something else. That testimony has to be related to what's in front of us. Are you guys okay with that at this time?
Yes.
Did you want to say something, Rob, before you start? Did you, it kind of looked like you were...
If I may,
Yeah.
because it is referred to in my review, I just wanted to reiterate. I guess I don't have to pull my review out. It says a SWIP bomb needs to be in place. The SWIP bomb triggers having the professionals with both sides. We're talking about hydrology reports that we don't have. Everybody's like, well, we're not professionals. The SWIP bond, which is laid out in the path of compliance, is the path. They have the professionals from CBE inspect the area and protect the disturbed area. In the riparian or not, we have a large disturbed area that is leaching into a creek. The most important thing is to have an appropriate silt barrier installed, inspected by a professional, and that's what I've wanted since the very beginning. That's all I have to say.
Okay, the board, the commission good?
Yep.
Okay. Jeff, of course, are you good with us taking public comment, you and your clients? Okay. Do you want to go first, sir? You have to come up to the mic.
If you like, yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
State your name and address.
My name is Andy D'Ambrosio, and I live at 7300 Dunham Road, just next door to the Demores. I will honor what you said. I will not bring up anything but the issue
I
at
won't
hand.
allow you.
You will not allow me, and I won't even try to do that.
Just stick to the agenda.
I will stick to the agenda. Hardship, okay. White Chevy truck, Ford truck, four-wheel drive, goes through there all the time. There's no hardship. It's been doing it for 4 years, okay? There's a piece of equipment sitting in the woods back there. It's a construction trencher, was driven back through the same area, that 9-foot wide area. There's no hardship, okay? I would make very clear. I've lived there for all this time. I see the truck going back there all the time. It's in the woods. There's no hardship with getting over there. The man has a trailer that his lawnmower can go pull on. He has a truck to pull the thing. He can take it down Dunham Road and come in that way and cut his grass that way. The same way, the guy who cuts my grass brings his lawnmower to the grass. Okay? I want to make it very clear. There is no hardship. Okay? I've prepared a whole bunch of other notes here. I will not even try to say them, but I have one more thing I want to say. You guys talked about a riparian setback. You talked about water, flooding. I haven't heard the word quality in environmental controls. The fill that was used was rubbish. It was asphalt. There was asphalt poured back there 3 years ago. Piles that you guys let them do that. And now there's more asphalt. There was steel. There was rebar. There was cement in that fill. That is not fill. Your laws basically say you can do things in repair and setback with clean fill dirt. This is not what this was. This looks like construction material that came from somewhere. I'd love to know who paid them to get rid of this junk. Okay? That's my comments. I have a whole lot more stuff I'm going to be bringing up with this city about issues and my property around me. I will not do that here today. You wanted me to stay focused, I did. There's no hardship, and you got to take a look at what was dumped back there because it was junk. And that is lowering the value of all the properties in that area by allowing junk to be put on residential property and in repair and setback. Thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me speak.
Thank you. Anybody else at this time? Okay. What does the commission want to do? I'm kind of torn, just as chairman. I'm certainly not afraid to give my opinion. I want to, I think it's important for guidance and also for the applicant. Where I'm struggling is what would change coming before us again?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, is there,
Exactly.
is that, I know the maps in our code, that's what we follow. We're consistent with that with other applicants. And whether that doesn't change the hardship, the only thing it might change, maybe there's no variance needed.
Yeah.
That's what you're saying. Well, then that's a moot point here. But we have a request for a variance. I'm kind of in that point.
Mm-hmm.
If I felt that, we're missing some information, as you mentioned, Mr. Schnell, I certainly would say, well, why, we should give that opportunity to be fair. But I don't know if I'm really at it.
Yeah.
I'm
The only difference it would make to me as if it's proven not to be within the riparian setback, and we don't have to do anything, because that's not, our, I
Right,
don't know,
and
what
there
we're
would be no
charged with.
variance needed.
If it is, and conversely, like I said, if it is within the riparian setback, already based on the evidence presented, like I said, I would be unlikely to approve of a variance, so.
I just want to also be clear, and I don't mean to put you on the spot, and I might, you don't have to say where you work or anything. Could you just state what your background, like what your profession is?
Yeah. So I am also a professionally certified urban planner. I have my American Institute of Certified Planner certification, master's in urban planning and development, as well as a Master of Architecture. I practice in that capacity in urban planning and design within our region. I work with a lot of the public agencies within the area, including like the Stormwater Conservation District, various watershed partners and things like that. It's very important to me that our water quality is maintained to the highest extent possible.
And I just wanted to share that with you and Janice St. John, who is an attorney, brings to the table a legal end of it, and Councilman Whedon as a councilman and myself as mayor kind of get a little bit of everything, but we really rely heavily on our experts and have a very good board, and I feel very, very good about our board, and I think we probably got the best board in Cuyahoga County as far as being qualified up here. And I think that's important because the most important thing you can do based on any decision you make in your life is having all the information and having the right information. And I feel we have the right information here in front of us at this time. So I don't know. Joe, you want to make a comment on that? Maybe it will help us a little bit. Or Janice, did you want to, before Joe says Janice or Ray, do you, how do you guys?
Well, I'm torn as well, because my inclination is to give everybody an opportunity to gather more information if they need to. But I agree with Alex. I don't think that more information is going to change the narrow decision that we have to make here as to whether there's a hardship as far as widening the 8-foot to 24-foot. I don't think that there's more information would impact that decision. So instead of wasting everybody's time, I'm more inclined to just vote on the amendment or the proposal as it is.
Mayor, I'm of the same mindset that what's before us tonight, I think we have enough information to take a vote on granting or not granting the variance.
Alex, is that where you felt too?
Yes.
George, just give us some guidance or your opinion.
I think that the situation that you have is that the technical review, the engineering evaluation as to whether or not there was damage is irrelevant if there was no hardship to justify the widening to begin with. And so I don't see any necessity to put the applicant through the process of providing that, and I don't see how it would possibly
you like to make a comment?
I just wanted, a lot of things were spoken about this evening, I just wanted to let the applicant know that the SWIP permit bond, the $2,800 that was brought up, that will be required by the village engineer, whether this work has taken place in the riparian setback or not. It's earth disturbing activity, that SWIP permit bond is required, and the inspections are required. So, that's all I say, and at this point, all I say is, however the board chooses to vote, if it is denied and it is in the riparian setback, which, you know, our maps show it is, remediation plan should be set forth to the village engineer for his review and approval, and that remediation plan should be prepared by a professional engineer.
All right, thanks. Joe, what's before us?
Yes, I agree. We've heard the testimony, the request is into the variance. I think it's time to vote. The question is 9 feet sufficient? I think it is. We've heard the testimony, drive a truck across it. So I agree with George, and I think you have to act on the request tonight.
Jeff, did you want to, anything else to say? No, I just want to give the opportunity. That's.
You've already expressed what your decision is. You know, there's an ultimate question here, and the ultimate question is, where is the riparian setback? It hasn't been delineated, and I think we have to sort that out. I understand, I'm happy to get the correspondence with the SWIP plan and other things, so we can get that resolved. We will try our best to get this resolved, where it is. We appreciate your time and consideration to all of you, and all the consideration was extended to us by visiting the site too. Thank you.
And I just want to make a comment there, and I appreciate that if that's the case and something changes, whether we vote yes or no, then that wouldn't change.
Yeah, we can't come back here for a variance.
No, but what I'm saying is, if you feel you're right on that and no variance is needed, okay, then it doesn't matter whether vote up, or that's my point. If you come back it's wrong, then we're right where we were at. So that's why it doesn't really,
Yeah. If you,
that doesn't change your opinion or you moving forward with that.
if you come back claiming the same hardship that you've presented tonight, basically, then it's not, yeah.
Right.
You go.
Okay.
Motion?
Who would like to make, or I can make the motion, that's fine. Like to make a motion to approve the variance to the riparian setback as requested. That's how it has to,
Okay.
it's asking you, that is what's in front of us, whether we want to approve it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay,
I got you.
Sorry.
it's always, it's worded that way. We don't do
Yes.
a lot of variances. We do approvals, but we do variances in this. So the motion is made by myself, a motion to approve the variance of the riparian setback as requested. Vote on the motion. Second, somebody second it?
Second.
Second by Ray. Vote on the motion.
No.
Alexander Long, no. Mayor Colograph, no. Councilman Whedon?
No.
Janice St. John?
No.
Okay. Variance denied. Thank you, everybody.
Adjourn or something?
Okay, we still got, make a motion for adjournment, please.
Mayor Colograph, I offer a motion to adjourn the Planning Commission meeting of August 6, 2026.
Is there a second?
Second.
Vote on the motion. Alexander Long.
Yes.
Mayor Colograph, yes. Raymond Whedon.
Yes.
Janice St. John.
Yes.
Yes. Meeting adjourned.
Oh.
There you were.
Hidden.
Yeah. Getting late.
How's it going?
I didn't haven't been to a council meeting.
Okay, pretty good. You've been pretty busy? Yeah. There's a lot going on for some reason. I don't know what it feels like. Yeah, a lot of.
It was a good meeting.
Yeah, it's interesting. But yeah, I've been busy too. I had a baby
One of those
3 months
down, I
ago.
think I'll have one.
So, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we
That will take up some time.
it sure does.